Today, welcome back as we continue our conversation with our young Catholic adults. Pull up a chair and join us for more conversation. And today, we can...
Hello and welcome back to our today's conversation with our esteemed guest here, and it's really exciting to continue having this conversation about young adults and how they live their faith. With that being said, so off camera we just talked about friends and how friends shape our faith, and I should mention though, the idea of village Catholic conversation came by because I'm from Kenya, and in Kenya we have those villages, and at the village, that's where people, different people have different places where they gather and have conversations. So, and that's how I came up with this idea of this is our village now.
That's so cool.
This is our village. And you cannot have a village by yourself. You have people who are around you. So, how do the people you hang around with help you shape your faith? If you have people who you hang around.
Yeah. I think the first time for Ronnie and I that we had an experience of like an authentically like Catholic community of people who just built us up was when we went to college, because we were in something called households, which is kind of like sororities and fraternities, except it's Catholic and it's focused on praying together and keeping each other accountable. And so we both had an amazing experiences of like, I had a whole group of women who were like praying with me, and he had a whole group of men. And so ever since we graduated, I feel like we've been just like really desiring to like form that again back home now. That really kind of inspired us.
Do you have something like that going on or not yet?
Yeah, I think we're starting to build that. I think this area has a great young adult community.
Nice.
Becca can attest to that too.
I made a lot of new friends recently that are very serious about the faith too.
Yeah, and your community was fabulous because at your wedding, when you did the whole ceremony that was rooted in your household experience with the feet washing thing, and with the two of them, it was really the most amazing thing I ever saw. But that was rooted in your experience at school.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what's kind of neat about it, is because all of those relationships, because they're rooted in Christ, they go past just our 4 years of college. Like we're godparents to our friends' kids now, so we'll be
and they live in Mississippi, so it's not like we can see them all the time.
But and so many of them came to our wedding, so it's just it goes way past we don't like have to see each other talk every few weeks. Like it's always there.
And we can shoot them a text like, hey, pray for me for this, and like we're still connected through that.
Yeah, because part of that too is you talked about loneliness, and I know there are some countries that are already having ministry of loneliness. I don't know why they would do that, but I try to ask myself this question: what am I now doing when people are experiencing that sort of loneliness, and we have all these groups forming? Is it that we are not reaching out to them, or is it that they are feeling uncomfortable hanging around with people who are experiencing the Catholic faith? I'm not sure. It's just a question that goes on in my mind, and I don't know if we have any answer or anybody has any answer. But I think having a group or having people who hold you accountable, who inspire you, is a good thing. Just versus just going to the regular mass.
Definitely.
So what do you think, Rebecca? Looks like you're in a deep thought there. You think it was?
Yeah. I don't know. I have thoughts, but I have to pull them together.
The classic introvert.
I was just thinking that.
But again, you're listening to Village Catholic Conversations, and when you hear something in these conversations, just go start your own conversation. And I think it's important for you to, for all of us to be able to share our faith journey with people, our thoughts, our experiences, because by the end of the day, that's what evangelization is about. It's how you live your faith, how you share it with other people, because that's the cool thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So we have had this thing about evangelization, new evangelization and old evangelization. Can somebody help me understand the differences between those two things, if you have used them?
Yeah.
Now, this is a totally different area of evangelization. So, but I'm just asking the young adults how they understand it.
New evangelization in church time, because it was new evangelization when I started ministry 25 years ago.
Oh,
it was?
It
was, yes.
That's really interesting.
So it's still new.
Can we define those terms?
Yes.
Because what is new in
Yeah.
evangelization?
I think from a standpoint of like, church documents and writings,
Yes.
John Paul II, in his pontificate, this is a really generalized thing, just said, hey, we're moving into the next millennium.
Yes.
It's time for everybody to do what we're doing, which is get up and get out and start sharing the faith, because for many centuries, really, right up until that point, Catholics were very well noted for being very private about their faith.
Yeah.
You didn't talk about it with other people. You went to church, you did your thing, and you witnessed the faith, but in such a private manner that it was hard for the world
To even know.
to know what you were doing or why you were
Yeah.
doing it. So I think the new evangelization was this idea that we need, as laity, it's not the job of just the priests and the sisters and the bishops to preach the gospel.
Yeah.
Our mission and our vocation as baptized Christians is to be out there with our faith.
Yeah.
In whatever way we're comfortable.
Yeah.
Not everybody, like you said, is going to stand on the street corner and, stop and talk to me about my faith. But do you understand what
I
I'm
think a
saying?
lot of people really respond well to that anyway.
No, but I'm saying, so do you understand about the new evangelization?
Yeah.
Just a push to get laity to move
Yeah.
and to take responsibility as they should for being evangelizers.
Yeah. It's the call. We have been called to evangelize after
Yes.
you get baptized. You're given that mandate. Not how to call it. I'll call it
No,
a
it's-
gift.
it's a
or
mandate.
Yeah,
It is a
to go out
mandate,
and make
yeah.
disciples.
Yeah.
So, as young adults, how are you able to evangelize to the young adults?
I think this kind of goes back to both like friends and also the importance of telling our stories.
Yes.
Because like we've been saying, like that witness of your life, like you living out your faith, like in whatever you do, like if you're into sports or going to the gym, if you're like a musical person, if like whatever aspect you live your life, just like living your life like with that joy of Christ and with that just like offering to pray for people and just like living your normal everyday life. I think that's like a huge part of the new evangelization.
Yeah, I like the fact that you bring the joy of Christ, coming off Christmas.
Right.
We are talking about living the joy of Christmas. Is it, and this is probably a different struggle. I was giving a talk at this one school. I won't mention the name of the school. I had a hard time connecting to the audience in that school, and because I was enthusiastic, I was like getting excited to go, just gonna give them the joy of Christ.
Yeah.
But getting there, I'm not. I found like the soil isn't ready. How now? I had to deal with that and had to go to the level of the soil is not ready, so I have to sort of put another face of, you guys are not ready, but I'm willing to work with you. But in 15 minutes, I was done. I couldn't do the job, so to speak. I couldn't connect with them, and I decided to just talk about other stuff, and I left feeling like I didn't do the job I was asked to do there. How do you connect with people who are feeling like, who you think and you feel like they are not ready? You're trying to share the joy of Christ, to share your faith, but they are not showing any signs of being ready.
Yeah, I think a big thing is just being persistent but not annoying with them. But one thing that I always keep in my mind is the image of the prodigal father, and how when his son was coming home from squandering all of his money, basically saying, hey, Dad, I want you to be dead so I can have your money. And he did all these terrible things. His father was just still there waiting for him, ready to share his wealth and his love with him. And he didn't just, when he saw his son coming, kind of turning around, he didn't just, sit there and wait for him to come all the way back to him. He got down and ran to him. So I think in my ministry, that's definitely something that I like to try to keep in forefront of my mind when I encounter people like that who are maybe not ready or like just starting to turn around. To remember to come down to them, to help bring them up.
Yeah, and I agree. I think part of it is just walking with them. Like, I think it's harder to come in as a speaker, and if they're not ready, like, there's not much you can do. But like it for us in our everyday life with like our friends and our family that we're around, like walking with them and like waiting for them, like the Father did.
I'm right here.
Just like being patient and like having those moments of connection with them.
That's interesting. You would say that because the same question now, we were discussing the same question, and the two fronts of answers that came up, and one of them was, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. And I'm like, you're gonna do what you're gonna do? Sure, and then what? You can't leave people, but if they're not willing to participate with you, then don't let them hold you back.
Yeah.
Do you struggle with that? Like, yes, you want to be able to be patient and go down and pick them up. And what if they're bringing you down? What if they cannot allow you to be an active participant in your ministry, an active participant in your marriage, an active participant to the village Catholic conversation, and they're just derailing you down? What do you do at that point?
Yeah.
You give up?
At that point, I think you resort to prayer because that's all you can do, really. Like, I don't know. I pray to Saint Monica a lot for a lot of people in my life, but because only the Holy Spirit can change hearts ultimately. Even if you do something that's through the Holy Spirit that helps them, it's not you.
That's really the important thing. We think that the example that we have in our lives is not effective, and we think that prayer somehow is the last resort. Many people, and it's okay. It's
you
okay.
should be praying for them the whole time.
It's really okay to go to prayer. Even at the last minute. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you got, that's what you got. But, leading with prayer, I think, is an important thing. But knowing that people are watching you, not in a bad way, but when you say that I am a person of faith, they're paying attention to you. They're paying attention to your, for lack of a better word, attitude, and how you interact with people. And I think, we talked about, John's big thing is just joy, joyful and gratefulness. And I think when you encounter, even casual encounters, need to always be joy. You need to be on your game all the time. And even if you walk out of the house and you're miserable, you need to paste that face on there, and not fake it.
Choose joy.
Choose joy. And there was, remember the retreat we did, Rebecca, when you were a senior in college, and we went to that place out in Ohio, whatever.
In Pennsylvania.
And I can't remember the one campus minister's name, but we were having a conversation. And we were talking about epitaphs, and his epitaph was going to be radical hospitality. And I have that on my desk, and it's such a great radical hospitality. So what is radical hospitality? Radical hospitality is, I'm just going to be hospitable off the charts at every moment when I'm out, and when I'm home with my family. Because we forget them too. We put the joyful face on, and it's a lot of work. We come home and we take it off, and then it's like, and we forget about the family. But when people in the middle of all the chaos of the world, you stand out. So when you two are together as married people, and you're just, just the rays of sunshine. People want to know, like,
what's the secret?
Like, what's the secret? Or Rebecca, and doing her thing and encountering some of her friends that maybe aren't churchgoers, and they're like, "Wow, you're still happy, and you're going to church, and like, why?"
It's weird to be happy nowadays. So I was going to say earlier,
it's
like,
weird?
everybody feels so hopeless, and like nothing matters, and like, what's the real point? Everything's been explained down to an atom, and people feel like, well, that's it. Like, there's nothing else, and there's no clear answers really coming from anywhere, I find. Like, even within the church, sometimes we struggle at that, is providing, like, clear, no, this is the answer, instead of kind of dancing around the issues. And young people just want clarity and answers, and they want to feel like there's hope and there's something to fight for and a reason to be alive.
So they want, like,
so having hope in an afterlife and being fine with relatively fine with death and being okay with it is kind of a weird thing. Because a lot of people think this is all there is.
Yeah.
Wow, I thought we got this. We talk about Christ. Right? That's the whole thing. I thought we got a clear answer here.
If that's all it took, it would be easy.
Oh yeah.
Just Jesus. Everybody's
Jesus.
like, yeah.
Sorry, because I'm trying to.
Our faith is one that you can study until you die, and you won't know everything. So.
Yeah.
You got to be okay with a little being a little stupid about some things. Ignorant of some things. So.
Well, and I agree with what you said before about prayer. Like, I think we personally need a prayer life. We need to be filled up so that we're able to overflow to other people because there is so much hopelessness and stuff. So I feel like in us building ourselves up and continuing to pray, that's going to help us.
Receiving the sacraments to fill your grace stores up so that you can give it to other people.
Yeah, you cannot give what you don't have, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
And being able to offer that prayer. You mentioned St. Monica. My mom is very devoted to St. Monica, and she prays a lot through her. And I have seen miracles happen through St. Monica in my life and in our lives. So that's amazing. Do you have a favorite saint? You mentioned St. Monica. Do you have a favorite saint that you kind of?
We have a favorite saint together. That's actually one of the reasons why we ended up together. So when I was at a conference when I was in high school, I heard this story about this awesome young adult saint who he would evangelize in bars and go mountain climbing, and I was like, this is an amazing guy, but I forgot his name. And so for years I was praying for his intercession, but I didn't know what his name was. And so when I met Ronnie in high school, or not in high school, in college,
that was one of the first things that we actually talked about.
Because it was his favorite saint.
Yeah, because he was my favorite, and I actually knew his name. So
Giorgio.
Blessed Pure Giorgio Frassati. So he's just been a huge influence in our lives, and actually each household has specific patron saints, and he was actually the patron saint of our household. So we just both really took and his life motto was verso alto, which means to the heights. So
towards the heights.
And everything he does, he tried to he strove for the heights. And strove toward God,
and
holiness
greatness of God,
and everything he did. So that was definitely just a motto that we kind of took. We actually both have that
tattoos. Verso alto.
I'm actually wearing socks of him right now.
Oh, okay, that's just weird. That's just strange. That's just crossed the line.
This is Village Catholic Conversation, and you are just having fun with us here. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with this conversation. And we want to bring in the concept of sainthood and how we strive to be saints. And our guest here will help us, generate that conversation and see where we go. All right? Hello, and welcome back to today's conversation. And as I had mentioned earlier, we are going to be speaking about saints and how young adults are inspired by saints, including old adults. How we are inspired by saints, their lives, and what you can learn from them, and how they can help you start your own conversations about the saints. So, to go back to Emma and Ronnie here, you said you have one saint, and so the question I wanted to ask you: do you also have different saints that inspire you?
Personal saints.
Personal
Definitely.
saints.
Oh,
yes,
definitely.
thank you.
Yeah, my personal favorite saint is Saint Therese of Lisieux.
I like her too.
Yeah. So she was my parents' favorite saint. So my middle name is Therese, they named me after her. And so growing up, I always liked her because she was my saint. But it wasn't until a couple years ago that I really just on my own just really fell in love with her and her her spirituality, and I feel like she's really become a big sister to me. She's very inspiring to me, just her humility and her love. So she's definitely my favorite saint besides our joint Pier Giorgio Frassati saint.
Frassati, yeah. So whenever you feel a little pressure, you go to Saint Teresa.
Oh yeah.
And be like, hey. Okay.
She's my girl, yeah.
You can also call them your girl, your boy. I think. I'm learning this thing too with you. Okay. Awesome. What about you?
For me, my confirmation saint, and he's just become a huge part of my life, was Saint Padre Pio. He's the patron saint of healing, and he's just had such a huge influence in my life, and his humility, but also like just his presence of he just radiated holiness. And he's just been a huge influence in my life and how I try to live my faith. You know, quiet but still to inspire others.
Yeah. What about Rebecca?
Well, I was saying earlier, I didn't get to talk about Saint Michael, who lately.
Who strangely is right behind you.
Of course.
Behind you.
I've felt like drawn to different saints over the years of my life, and just lately, the past year, I just felt very like, I want to be your buddy. I want to be buds with you. So.
Buds.
He's a good one to be buds with.
But I.
Your brother was a big St. Michael guy.
Of course. Well, that makes sense because he's the patron of the military.
Yeah, right.
Interesting.
Yeah, but before Mass, I pray his chaplet, and the promise of that is that you get one angel from each choir, so 9 angels that accompany you to receive the Eucharist if you pray it before Mass. I think that's super cool, and I've just been really into angels lately. Like, people talk about aliens, like non-human intelligent life, but it exists and they're everywhere. I just think that's so interesting, and people don't think about it. But and then other than that, like. Was St. Joan of Arc lately, which kind of related to St. Michael because he appeared to her and was one of the ones that
did he really? I didn't know that.
To tell her what she was supposed to do.
St. Joan of Arc makes complete sense to me.
My confirmation saint was St. Clare, who I only kind of begrudgingly. I wasn't that into it when I was getting confirmed, and I wanted to pick St. Therese, and my mom was like, everybody picks her, you can't pick her. So she's like, how about Claire? And I was like, well, I like that name, so fine. And over the years, I've kind of come to like her, though. Her amazing faith in the Eucharist, and using the Eucharist to like fight off an army was pretty awesome. That's awesome. I like St. Augustine, I like St. John the Apostle, like... Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So it sounds like you can start off a conversation with, a group of people who love these alien movies and talk about saints
angelology.
Right? I'm not a huge fan of alien movies, so So I'm out there. What about you?
Oh, I'm a big fan of Faustina.
I know. We actually did a podcast about Faustina.
We did do a podcast.
Did you post it?
Oh, that was a long time ago, John. Where you been? Yeah. That was like 28 episodes ago.
He never wanted to post that for us. I was just checking.
I think so. I don't know, maybe not.
No, you said you wanted to redo, and we were like, let's redo.
Oh, maybe that's true.
Too about Divine Mercy.
Yeah, we did talk about Divine Mercy.
Yeah, and we said we were going to redo it.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that. Okay, maybe we'll have to do that. But yeah, Faustina and Divine Mercy, which then connects to John Paul II in a huge way. Yeah. And I just learned recently in the last about year and a half that Therese was very connected to Divine Mercy as well. Yeah. So Father Gately's book on
33 Days to Merciful Love.
Merciful Love. Fantastic book, 33 Days of Merciful Love. Highly recommend it. But I did not realize how connected Therese was to Divine Mercy. So, Faustina just is amazing to me.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, though. And I'm going to share my sense too. What are some of the saints' unique elements that you try to incorporate in your daily lives? Because sometimes we talk about saints up here, and it sounds like, we are up here. But someone once told me that, John, we do not want these things here. We want the practical. We want you come down, just as we were saying in our previous podcast. Show me. Tell me, is it prayer? How do they do it? Show me. So in your daily practices, daily life, how do you incorporate the elements of different saints to live your life?
Yeah, something I love about a lot of the young adult saints, because there really are so many awesome young adult saints, Therese and Pure Georgia we're talking about, is they really teach us that you don't have to wait to be holy. Like, you can be holy while you're young. Yeah. Especially Blessed Pure Giorgio, he actually didn't live long enough to become a priest or to become married. He was just a single young guy. And what he would do is he would take his friends on, hikes up the mountain, and he would lead them in praying a rosary. Or he would, bet them in playing pool and say, if I win, you have to go to adoration with me. And he always won. Oh, nice. And so I think that's just really inspiring to me how the saints just lived their everyday life. And they didn't wait to be holy for, something big to happen. They just did it in their everyday little circumstances.
Yeah. So, and probably I should mention that, becoming a saint, we still require, you have to die, and and then after people have to experience
I
miracles.
recognize you can be a saint while you're living. You're just not recognized as one.
Yes,
Yeah.
you get recognized after
Yeah.
you go to the other side. Oh,
Stop banging on the table.
all right, I'm still thinking it's a drum. Yeah, I wanted to throw that out there for you. So, very interesting you bring the playing of pool. So it means that whatever we do, even in this particular conversation, we can be saints in this conversation because what we are doing now here, we are living, we can, as we evangelize, as we talk, and as we share, we bring the elements and personalities of the different saints, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think like God calls us to holiness in the place that we're at right now. Like like wherever our vocation is or where we're at, like He leads us to holiness, like in our daly lives and families. So
Yeah. One of my favorite saints is Saint Don Bosco. Don Bosco, who was big in Italy and bringing a group of young guys together to, especially the kids who are homeless out there. And when I started my ministry, I connected with that. And all I wanted is to have a group of young people, teaching them education, faith, and just having those conversations. And through one of the ministries that I participated in when I was in Kenya, which is Vides, it was a group while in college. I volunteered to go with another 40 of us, teach in one of the slums in Nairobi. And that's why I met my wife during that particular mission that we were on. Just being with these kids, teaching them art, teaching them about God and how you can use art to really connect with God and to pray. So he really inspires me, and one of the main things that he says, you can see Jesus in every kid that you look at or every person that you look at. So when I'm looking at every one of you, I say, I can see Jesus in you, because that's one of the inspirations that he gives me. So you talked about St. Michael. I'm really curious to, how does St. Michael really inspire you to live in your day? Do you have like an armor or something?
I wish I could carry a sword everywhere. That'd be cool. But, he's just a reminder to me. Well, personally, a lot of my issues in living the faith stem from fear. Mm-hmm. Okay. Fear of various things. So I feel like that's why I was drawn to him and just praying to him to have more courage. And a reminder that at least anymore, it feels like we're all at war. Yeah. The spiritual warfare aspect.
I think we are every day.
Of the faith is more prevalent nowadays. Yeah. And he helps me to remember that the battle's won and that I can I can do it, know. There's a better way to phrase that, I'm sure. But
Rebecca can do it. We can.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Giving me strength and courage and everything to be able to fight. Yeah.
That's cool.
Wow, and I think it's all, part of what I think it's the book of Romans that says, put on the armor of God in your faith, right? What about you? I forgot to ask you about, Faustina.
Well, for me, Faustina, the whole idea of divine mercy is it just captures my heart. Like this idea that regardless of what you've done or where you've been, that God's mercy is deeper and can cover any of that. Yeah. And particularly with Faustina, I think many of us feel like, if God would just talk to me directly and give me some clue as to what I'm supposed to do or where I'm supposed to go, everything would be cleared up. And it would be this mystery of what I'm supposed to do would be gone. Yeah. Well, she kind of proves that that's not really the case. Because literally Jesus Christ was speaking to her directly. And she still struggled with timing. She still had doubts. Jesus would say, this is what I want you to do. And then she would try to do that, and then it would fail. Yeah. And that idea of trying counts in our Catholic faith. And I think I'm paraphrasing. I read through the diary and go through my notes a lot, just the places I've highlighted, especially when I'm doing aeration. And but he said to her one time, you do understand, I'm more interested in your obedience and your faithfulness than your success. Like I'm not so much concerned with whether you succeed or not, but that you're faithful to what I'm asking of you. And for someone who fails a lot, that's a comforting message to me, you know? And I think which should be for everyone, which is when you're trying to do God's will, even if you're failing, that's the path to sainthood. That's the path to heaven. Because like you said, you go and talk to those kids at that, and then they're not getting the message. And Jesus had a response for that. Shake the dust from your feet and move on to the next town. You know, he, you know, digressing here a little bit, but he talked about I'm the bread of life, and then a bunch of people were following him. It's like, okay, this is too much, and they left, and he said, okay, he let them go. So I think witnessing and sharing and living the gospel, and doing your best is what counts, and that's what Faustina, like that's her thing. Is just I'm going to be faithful to what you're asking me. So I really attach myself to that. Because I got nothing else but mercy. Like,
It's, you know, when I'm listening to all the saints and all what you're talking about here, I think we had a couple of elements that are showing up. Like, first of all, these saints were very obedient, but they were obedient to something. They were given a purpose, a mission. And you're mentioning that most of the young adults or young people want something to live for. And all of us have our own mission, especially for the Catholic faith. Our mission is to evangelize. And so how do you feel the people who we feel like have left the church could probably connect or seek the consolation from the saints? How can they connect to the saints? You know, they may not look upon us and be like, John, I don't want to follow John. Oh my gosh. Did you see what he did there? You know, they may not follow us, but what about, how can they connect to the saints?
Yeah, I think a huge thing, especially nowadays, is just that, like, we hold celebrities and, like, athletes up to such high standards, and, you know, people all over are trying to, you know, be whoever. But how beautiful is it that in the Catholic faith, like, we have these people who we can look up to, who can lead us closer to Christ, closer to heaven. And how neat is it that in this day and age, like with JP2, like he canonized all of these saints, all these great shining examples for us. So it's so many people, like you see people have that longing for, you know, this goal to reach in your daily lives. And a lot of times people, you know, misplace it. They put it like in LeBron James or the Kardashians or something. When you have beautiful people like all the saints we've been talking about here, who can lead us closer to heaven.
The saints who failed many times, and yet they take it closer to Christ.
Exactly.
I think that's so powerful.
Yeah,
to think about.
I agree.
Yeah.
And all the saints are so different.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, for any personality or thing you're struggling with, like, you can find a saint who relates to you.
Yeah. Like, people worry about being a devout Christian, that you lose your interestingness, or, like, you're no fun then. But, like you said, like, all of the saints are so different, and they're the most themselves because of their saintliness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know, speaking about that, too, like, let's look at St. Joseph, for example. Jesus
My
died.
confirmation name.
Oh, your confirmation name. Yeah. In the Bible, he never says a word.
It's good advice for husbands.
Yeah. Yeah, he never says a word, you know. He does what he was told. And,
Quiet and obedient.
quiet and obedient.
Keep that in mind, Ronnie.
That's a good advice. Yeah. So what was it?
Sorry.
So I was saying,
St. Joseph never says a word in Scripture. Yes.
So they have met. A couple of people say, you know, John, I don't like speaking in public. I don't know what to say. But you know what? There's St. Joseph. You know, you don't have to say a word, but you can be obedient in whatever it is that you're asked to do. And just as you were saying, all saints are different, but who do you connect to? Read their story. You know, read what they stood for, and how can that inspire you to be a better person? Right. By the end of the day, we are going to heaven. That's the road. And saints is a great way to connect to and to inspire us to get there. So this has been a great conversation, and I don't want to lock anyone out. If you have some inspiring thoughts for 2020. Ooh. Yeah, tell us.
Well, for us, we actually choose a new saint every single year for us to, get to know and to kind of like take on their spirituality. So we both prayed separately and then came together, and we both felt called to kind of walk with Saint John the Beloved.
Saint John the Beloved.
Yeah, so we're going to be, kind of like focusing on the Sacred Heart, on like reading John's Gospel, the Eucharist. That's kind of where we're going, like spiritually in 2020.
I think it's just a really good practice just to, because I mean that's what the saints are there. They're there for us to lead us closer to Christ through their intercessions, and I think it's a nice thing to kind of dedicate a year to like a specific saint for that reason, to get closer to Christ.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
Thoughts for 2020?
Yes.
In regard to saints?
Saints, whatever, you know.
Well, I've been wanting to do the 9 months Sacred Heart devotion too, so I'm going to try and start that January 1st Friday. You receive the Eucharist and you say like a series of prayers to the Sacred Heart.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to grant you a provided for death, so that's nice.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
Oh, wow.
Wow, this has been an awesome opportunity to visit with these young people. So we may have to have them back again.
Definitely. We would love to have you back again. So thank you so much for watching and for listening. We hope this has inspired you to get closer to Christ, to start your own conversation. And on behalf of our guests, thank you so much. And
go start your own conversation.
Go start your own conversation.